Ba-da-ba-ba. Beep-a-da-bop. Okay, we're starting.
Hey!
Hello.
Welcome back to another episode of Beaker Bros, where we drink out of beakers.
Because we're bros.
Badums.
Anyways, how are you doing, Jaanuni, today?
It's a little rainy, but we're thriving. That's really about it. We're thriving. It's going. How are you, Sohnia?
I'm all right. Yeah, I can't complain too much.
Yeah.
I've had a good week so far.
Okay.
The circumstances in which we're recording this episode is a little funny to me, which has sort of been a highlight of the day.
Oh, you know what? It is. For our listeners at home, currently we are behind my couch, on the floor, huddled over a new mic, actually. So let us know if the audio is any better.
Yeah, thank you to my classmate for allowing us to borrow this very nice quality mic. We're probably using it wrong, so if the audio isn't better, my bad. Or our bad.
Actually, Sonia's bad.
It's a team effort. It's our bad.
Anyways, but today's episode is actually, pun intended, out of this world.
But dumps.
Sohnia?
And the reason why it's out of this world is because we're going to be talking about Mars. Specifically, the ethics of colonizing Mars and going to Mars. So, what we'll do for this episode, this is going to be more of a ethics-based research episode, so sort of straying away a little bit what we're used to talking about. So, if you have any input on our explanation, or should we just restart?
No.
Okay.
It's going well.
The anxiety just hit me. Do you want to finish it up?
So what we're really going to dive into this episode is the ethical aspects of exploring Mars and looking at different research papers and everyone's different stances, because obviously when it comes to ethics, there's different sides to it. There's right or wrong. I mean, there's no right or wrong, really. And kind of why we need to even explore Mars. Like, why is that a thing? Why don't we just stay where we're at?
Yeah, and if the audio sounded kind of crappy when I was talking just there, my bad. I stepped away and then I realized I was too far from the mic, but that's okay. Okay.
Okay, let's just start off with why we're trying to explore Mars, right? I mean, there is that whole idea of, like, we want to see what's out there, right? But let's talk about what's happening on Earth right now. The biggest thing, climate change and global warming. So it's essentially, the concept of climate change and global warming started in the late 1800s, when a Swedish scientist actually wrote a paper that predicted changes in the atmospheric carbon dioxide levels that could affect the surface temperature through the greenhouse effect.
Random comment. Do you remember I think we did this episode last year, with the Nobel Prize one? Mm-hmm. And I think that, like, the Nobel Prize winner from last year was, like, did something with climate change. This was just, like, a random thought.
Oh.
And basically, like, he developed some sort of mathematical model which, like, showed the, like, climate change progression.
Oh.
So that was a thing from last year's Nobel Prize winner for physics, I think it was. You can check out that episode. I don't remember what it is, but we did it last year around this time.
I think I know what you mean. Like, it was basically just showing, like, how climate change was going to progress and stuff like that.
Yeah, like, it was some sort of model, but that's besides the point.
But I mean, kind of relates to the whole, like, my next point being, like, how, according to research, scientists believe that Earth's surface temperature has risen by 0.08 degrees Celsius per decade, since 1880. However, the rate of warming has risen by 0.18 degrees Celsius per decade since 0.18.
0.18. You say, I'm just getting nitpicky there.
I'm
Whenever you say, like, the decimal, like the numbers after the decimal, you're like,
this is why I'm quitting
187.
Beaker Bros.
Starting my own podcast.
However, the rate of warming has risen up by 0.18
There you go.
degrees Celsius per decade since 1981. I think that kind of just relates to your point, how you're talking about the mathematical progression model. So I think, like, I'm wondering if, like, that model has been used to create even more accurate, like, numbers.
Yeah. Going back to the 1.8 thing, have you always been saying, like, 0.18?
You know what,
0.17?
Sohnia? You know what? It's just been a day.
Okay. That's fair. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I say.
Okay.
I did say 0.08.
You did. Yeah.
So it's just, like, whatever my mind is feeling.
Right.
I was saying 1880s.
Okay.
So maybe that kind of had a thing.
I didn't mean to
Yeah, this is why.
harp on that.
Okay, I'm gonna have a terrible week now, guys.
Are you really that?
No, I'm
Oh,
actually
okay.
not. Okay, but Can you tell me what the implications of global warming, Sonia?
So, global warming can contribute, or not just global warming, just like climate change in general. Sometimes people conflate global warming and climate change together, but climate change is more of an encompassing term because not all of the world is warming. It's also cooling. So, climate change in general, I guess, it contributes to like rising sea levels, increased risk of droughts and floods, and threats to biodiversity, which, like warming sea levels specifically, this can negatively affect aquatic life, like coral and algae, which are really responsible for producing a lot of the world's oxygen, specifically phytoplankton. I think they produce more of the world's oxygen than trees. I remember reading that somewhere. I might be wrong, but that we can double check that. If I'm wrong, we'll take that out. But anyways, there is and in addition to that, due to these sort of like depleting amounts of resources and natural resources, specifically like coal, oil, gas, these are becoming very difficult to find and expensive to extract and all that sort of stuff. And that's sort of like the main implications right now with climate change in general. It's just the lack of resources, droughts, floods, and it's just creating a lot of inhabitable, hostile positions for people to thrive in or exist in.
I mean, there's so much, like, if you look at the news today saying if we don't do anything by 2050, like, we're done for, kind of thing, right? And
or even,
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, even now, like, you can see the floods that are going on in, like, South Asia, like, all, like, literally around the world. Like, things are in shambles.
Yeah, the earth is in shambles right now, guys. And, I mean, check out our other podcasts where we talk about global warming and really the implications of it and like what we can do about it and what our everyday effects has on global warming and climate change. But this is not what the podcast is about. The podcast is about more about the benefits of going to Mars. And I think that kind of what we're trying to say is that because there's global warming and climate change and there is research saying that Earth might be like in a couple of years in shambles even more, that we are looking to other planets. We are looking in to see if we can explore space, if there's other life forms on Mars, really. So essentially, there are many benefits in space exploration, such as technological innovation, scientific information, and education, and international international cooperation.
Do you know what that sounded like? I can't remember the name of the cartoon, but like, maybe it was Scooby-Doo when like he shakes.
Want a Scooby snack? Yes, that. Well, those benefits. And then, of course, so with the development of new technology, this discovery of these technologies can actually benefit us in the future. So there's one study by Vicio, where human expedition and colleagues, colleagues.
But et al. Matters.
Human expedition to Mars is heavily considered a goal for the future of human space exploration due to the interest in exploration. A study was carried out to define and analyze any technological issues. So a reference scenario was created as a final target for the HSE, which is the human space exploration to Mars, and then a specific analysis concerning the key technologies to accomplish a set of missions were performed. So the obtained results allowed an understanding and visualizing where certain technology was necessary, unnecessary, or potentially applied. Although the study was helpful in placing investments into the development of certain technology, it also demonstrates the rigorous...
Use your big girl words, Janine.
It also demonstrates the intense development of certain technology. What am I saying? Let me backtrack for a bit. It also demonstrates the intense process that scientists go through to analyze effective technology, ultimately showing the innovative discovery that occurs from space exploration.
You know what's kind of cool?
Yeah.
Like, the first people on the moon, that was late 1960s, I think. And that was sort of, or I guess that decade in general was sort of the beginning of the space race. Now we're sort of having like a reinvigoration of that with privatized folks going to space, so like SpaceX and Amazon and Virgin Air. I don't remember like which like
Yeah.
aspect of the Virgin company that's going to space. Like there's that, but then also NASA and everything, and like they're planning on going to the moon in like the mid 2020s, and then after that the next stage is going to Mars. So anyways, my point is it's very interesting how like we're in a new age of the space race, but all of that sort of been inspired by like all the I can't make a sentence right now. Basically, like all the technology and like the benefits of going to space have sort of like paved this way for a new avenue of space exploration.
Yes.
That's my point.
When you also saying that like the space race and stuff, I was thinking about like like many years ago back in history when we would read in history books of like how different countries were discovered, right? And it's just like, oh, they found this, they found that, and just in my head I'm like, we're in a different level of discovery right now where we're discovering space. And I just had a moment of like, whoa, right? Because like everyone's trying to like discover something of the planets and stuff, and I just feel like when we were discovering Earth and like lands and like all those like borders and stuff, like wow.
Yeah, like first it began with okay, what's outside of the community, and now it's like okay, what's outside of the planet, the galaxy.
And it's so crazy that I almost feel like we're living in that history right now, right? Where like I don't know if it's gonna be in the near future, I don't know if it's gonna be way off in the future, but just that like we're living in it right now. That's what's just really cool.
I guess we can sort of like skip past some of this, but like I think the main takeaway right now with like why a lot of privatized services or companies are going to space right now or want to go to Mars as well is because of like space mining. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Space mining.
Yeah,
for sure. So the push to explore Mars facilitates space mining, right? So many objects in the solar system are composed of similar minerals and chemicals that exist on Earth. So I guess like with that making sense, it's like, oh, if it's on Earth and if it's on Mars, why don't we live on Mars? So there is the potential for Mars to contain objects and substances that we can use on Earth. We would especially benefit if we can find more like rare minerals and elements.
So like I know comets too have a lot of what's it called, like rare metals and gold and diamonds, and well I guess diamonds you can now make, but like gold and like other minerals specifically, and I think titanium. No, but
palladium,
whatever, like metals and rare metals. So I know like mining comets has been like tried to become a thing. Wasn't there like again this is off topic, but like last year or the year before, like they landed something on a comet. They landed some sort of satellite.
Yeah.
Am I mistaken, or was that like in a show that I was watching?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you, but reality and shows anymore, they all...
Have you ever seen that show Space Force? With like Steve Carell and Diana, whatever. It's like The Office, but in space, but kind of not as funny.
It's like The Office, but in space.
Or like within like, it's...
Yeah, that's funny.
But, anyways, so that's, I guess, like one of the main, or sort of the main reasons right now. It's like colonizing other planets and like being the first there, but also like taking advantage of like the resources that they have and like trying to save the human race if Earth goes to shit, for a lack of better words.
I was just gonna like jump in, kind of like get ahead of ourselves in the sense by being like, oh, colonization. When we hear that word, we're like, there's such a negative connotation to it, right? I mean, especially as like children of immigrant parents and whatnot, and like colonization. So in my head, I'm like, wait, if we're trying to colonize a planet, isn't that like not a good thing? And I think that just goes right into the ethics of it, right?
Going back to the ethics of, or the ethical implications of going to Mars, here's this, some ideas that have been supported by research. So there's a dude or gal, we don't want to, or individual, we don't want to assume gender here, but the person's name's James Schwartz, and this individual suggests that humans have a moral obligation to explore space, and this is justified through a few different arguments or frameworks. So one being that space exploration is necessary for acquiring and amplifying available resources. So going back to what we were talking about before about like mining and whatever, like if Earth is limited in its resources and its capacity to take care of the population, like there should be an obligation to find other ways of allowing the population to survive and thrive. So that's one idea. Another one is the need for space technology, and this is necessary in order to combat extraterrestrial threats. So, like, I don't know if aliens or like a comet, or not a comet, but like an asteroid's about to ka-chow into Earth. Like, we need to
Act fast.
act fast and leave abruptly. And then there's also another idea where we're obligated to pursue interstellar colonization in order to ensure long-term human survival. So that sort of like ties the previous two together.
And then another study actually looked at by the author Greenstone, which focuses on the ethics and public integrity in space exploration, And so the following ideas are addressed in this article so through specific ethics rules that apply, including standards agreed to by partner states to... What is this even saying?
So it's talking about like... So, okay, let's backtrack for a second. So this dude or individual named Greenstone, or last name's Greenstone, or maybe it's a corporation or a company or organization as well. But anyway, so Greenstone, they focus on ethics and public integrity in space exploration. So again, this idea focuses on three main frameworks. So one being through I guess like the ethical rules that we spoke about before. It's important to state that like cooperation and partnering with government entities is required to I guess like continue space exploration, and this isn't possible unless like we collaborate and work together. So that's one idea. Another idea is that through continuing dialogue among space... do you want to go with it then?
Oh, no, I was just saying I know dialogue.
I know talking. But yeah, in the pursuit of space exploration, it's important that we keep open dialogue with like other entities and stakeholders involved in like space exploration. So that could be government, policymakers, citizens, and so on, or even like privatized companies as well, because like Amazon, SpaceX, whatever, they're also involved in this.
Not Amazon Prime being on Mars too.
Amazon has taken over the universe.
Thank you, Jeff.
Mr. Bezos. And then, or I guess he's not really in charge of it anymore. Isn't there a new like?
Really?
Yeah, like he's obviously like he started.
I'm so out of the loop.
I think there's like new people that are, again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe give a little Google search to clarify, but I don't think he's like the front runner of it anymore. But anyways, so now like the third important thing to keep in mind when we're pursuing space exploration, it's by, I guess, advising people directly involved in affecting, or I guess like those that are involved in like this concept of space flight, they need to be able to have adequate education and knowledge and training before we can pursue this any further.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one idea, right? And then
I guess that's more tied to like policy, I guess, and like how we need to go about pursuing
stakeholders and stuff, but not.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But then I think we also have to look at the other aspect. I think that like maybe to the general public, a lot of people have an opinion on of like interaction with indigenous life forms, where the like exploring Mars can lead to potential harm to these indigenous life forms. But how can we even determine ownership? Like just because one country sees it first, or like just because we like discovered first, does that mean we have any right to it? Of course, is the whole debate. So one study by Ted Peters actually acknowledges the questions regarding space exploration ethics in a book called the Palgrave Handbook of Philosophy and Public Policy, and acknowledges that 3 space exploration uncertainties regarding extraterrestrial intelligent creatures, which one, that those with less intelligence than us Homo sapiens, and then 2 are extraterrestrial intelligent creatures peers in intelligence, and 3 that these creatures can be also superior to us in intelligence. To each uncertainty, we ask, what is our terrestrial moral responsibility towards extraterrestrial life? So that's like with the idea that like there is others out there, right?
Or even if they're...
If, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if, and if so.
What? Like,
What?
how do we
Yeah.
handle that?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the movies, aliens taking over the world, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. There's ones where aliens are not as smart as us, or there's ones where aliens are smarter than us, right? There's I guess what it's trying to say that if we do explore these planets, we do interact with, if there's indigenous life forms, how do we know? Like, I think what it is that knowledge is power in a sense, but there's so much ambiguity with this that it's like, are we doing any more harm to us by exploring out there too? And I think that's just like one of the questions I was just kind of throwing out there.
Yeah, I remember adding to that, I think it was in the 80s, what they did, so there was, I believe his name was Carl Sagan. I may be incorrect, but Carl Sagan was a scientist, but also a very prominent science communicator, sort of akin to like Bill Nye, but like
The science guy.
yes, but of like that generation. And him and like a bunch of other researchers and scientists were involved in this project where they basically sent this like this gold satellite thing into space, and it contained a lot of information about Earth. So like it was like this code that talked about like Earth numbers, and I think like a gold record. My hair is falling out, sorry. And there was like this gold record player that also got sent up with it. But then going back to, like, is it ethical to be communicating with potential extraterrestrial life? When that was done, that was, like, one of the first main projects that, or at least publicized projects that went into that. There was folks like Stephen Hawking that were like, oh, we shouldn't be doing this. This is, like, playing with fire here in the event that, you know, life in the universe isn't as friendly as, we anticipate it to be. So
a lot of what ifs, and I guess like it's just like a moment of like, oh, what are we kind of getting ourselves into, right? But yeah, like I just think like to wrap that point up, it's just like potential life forms can be dangerous, right? And who knows, maybe it can result in our own destruction. Or it might not. Maybe
we're singing Kumbaya and holding hands with aliens in like the next 20 years.
Yeah. Like, we don't know. But I guess we'll just have to sit around and wait. Or, who knows? Maybe we will be the ones who figure out what's at Mars. I don't know how that will go.
Like, we have, satellites and stuff have been to Mars, so we have like a basic understanding of like the composition of the atmosphere and like what materials are on the ground, but
are there life forms? Can we live there?
Are there Martians?
We don't know.
Ba-dum-bum.
Stay tuned for I'm kidding.
Next episode we solve. We find aliens. I guess with that being said, sort of to end off this episode, what are your personal views, Jaanuni? Should we go to Mars? Should we not go to Mars?
I love sci-fi movies, okay? Like,
Do you have a favorite?
No.
Okay.
But I love just that genre, and I love the idea that there's something out there, because I just feel it's so vain of us, or selfish of us, to think we're the only ones in this freaking, like, universe, let alone maybe, like, on a planet that's what?
Like, I have no clue.
Okay. Well,
like millions of
kilometers? Way so far.
I think it's
you can't even bike there.
I think it's, oh god, was it like 50 years to get to Mars?
What? Okay, so start now. I'll get there by 70.
Yeah, I may be wrong in that. Maybe it's a few, no, it's definitely not 50 years. Maybe it was like 4 years.
You go from 50 to 4.
What was 50 years from here?
Let me Google this. How long does it take to go to Mars?
You could have just typed Mars distance from Earth.
You know what? I like to ask Google like I'm thinking. 7 months.
Where did I get 50 years from? What's
Interstellar?
50?
When he got stuck.
Maybe you're right, actually. You're right.
And then he, like, missed the whole part.
You're actually, maybe I was thinking
Damn.
that. But, yeah, so, I guess, what's your view then? Unless I just missed what you said.
No, I'm just trying to, like, okay, I think, as, like, a woman in STEM, it's so cool that, like, we get to, from a scientific perspective, I would love to, like, know what's out there, right? And be able to explore that and for sure, like, just kind of, like, have more knowledge, right? But from an ethical point of view, there's, like, so much where we don't know of that, like, I mean, I'm just comparing this to, well, it's definitely not equivalent to it, but, like, Indigenous people and, like, how, like, people thought discovery or whatever, and, like,
I mean, there are, like, themes. There are parallels in, like,
Yeah.
colonizing other planets versus, like, colonizing, like, other countries.
yeah, so I just feel like, are we a danger? Are we, like, endangering something by doing that?
In, like, math and statistics, one of the scariest, scariest with air quotes is the number 0. And to think that there's, like, nothing else out there, that's, like, bold claims here.
I just feel like it's just so much unknown that, like, I don't have a strong point of view, right? I mean, I could live without not knowing what's happening to Mars, but also, like, there's the curiosity. I mean, that's like, I want to know, but, like, how do we do it in the best way possible that, like, it doesn't harm anyone?
Yeah. Well. Anyways,
What about you? What do you think?
I think for me, I don't know, like, I guess if so long as it's gone about in the manner that's like ethical, and I guess so it takes in consideration like all or as many stakeholders as possible. I think it'd be cool to go to Mars if there's like utility in going there, like pop off.
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to our listeners at home, tell us what you guys think.
Yeah. Comment, subscribe, email Beaker Bros.
Email, send some mail in our mailboxes. My address is.
Anyways, with that being said, thank you for joining us on this episode. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.